Shirone repeats Amy's words while realizing that the 1 hour delay is a kind of insurance. Additionally, while keeping the matter from the professors must be her way of protecting a secret, he then comes to the conclusion that whatever secret she is hiding must be connected to his own. As a result, he understands that she went alone to ensure his secret remains safe as well. Determined, he declares that he must go find her. However, Shirone tries to stop him while insisting that they should wait until 7 as Amy requested. But just then, our guy suddenly remembers that Training Ground 14 is located near the mountain. Worried about time, he wonders if he can get there quickly enough. Seeing his determination, Shirone decides to accompany him, and insists that traveling on foot is not an option. She then announces that she will photonize and tells him to hold on tight. Confused, he asks what she means by that. However, before he can fully process the situation, she uses her magic skills, and they begin their journey to save Amy. Midway, Shirone expresses concern while reminding her that using magic at school is prohibited. Additionally, he points out that teleportation is dangerous, while warning that if they crash into a tree, they will be in serious trouble. However, before he can react further, they suddenly hit the ground. Struggling to recover, he thinks about how he did not have enough time to prepare himself for the landing. Without wasting another second, they start searching for Amy at Training Ground 14. Looking around, Shirone notices that the area is completely empty and wonders why no one is there. Shirone, while thinking critically, suggests that they may have changed the meeting location at the last minute. He reasons that they probably did so to avoid getting caught in case a professor found the note. Frustrated, Shirone asks what they should do next and what will happen to Amy. Shirone, while realizing that the situation is more complicated than he expected, understands that now is not the time to worry about his status being exposed. In fact, he begins to suspect that he may have put himself in even greater danger. Turning to Shirone, he instructs her to go back and inform her professor about everything she knows. He assures her that she will be able to move much faster without him. However, she hesitates while reminding him that Amy specifically told them to wait until 7. Shirone reassures her that it is fine, explaining that if he helps, Amy will have nothing to worry about. Therefore, it is best for Shirone to go. Shocked by his words, Shirone questions his connection to Amy. She demands to know what is really going on between them, while asking if the rumors about them secretly dating are actually true. With growing urgency, she insists that there must be something she does not know. Shirone, while growing impatient, shouts that the longer they wait, the worse the situation might become. Seeing his determination, Shirone finally agrees but warns him to be careful. Before leaving, she instructs him to stay put since he is also in danger. As our dude watches her leave, he suddenly feels a sense of familiarity. Being on a mountain reminds him of home, and he begins to think that he might be able to find some clues about Amy's whereabouts. He then starts searching for any signs of movement and eventually spots footprints on the ground. Noticing that they are fresh, he wonders why they suddenly stop midway. Immediately, he considers the possibility that whoever was here may have taken flight. However, before he can investigate further, a sudden sonic boom erupts in the distance. Alarmed, he realizes that something has already happened. Jake's lackey tells Amy that his hand slipped, but he intended to make her entrance more elegant, though instead, he ended up hitting her. Standing before him, she questions whether he is aware of the commotion he has caused. His companions, amused by the situation, remark that Amy's presence in their group is an honor, all thanks to Jake. Playing along, Jake sarcastically instructs them to treat her with the utmost respect. She then challenges them while asking if they have anything impressive to show her. In response, Jake mockingly questions whether she came alone while leaving Shirone behind. Without hesitation, she asserts that she does not want to cause unnecessary trouble and is more than capable of handling them on her own. However, Jake expresses his doubts while suggesting that she might struggle when so many eyes are watching. He then hints at having a well-thought-out plan this time, though she remains uninterested and instead asks about Shirone's whereabouts. His companions loudly respond, claiming that Shirone is most likely in the library, lost in his books, completely unaware that Amy is trapped among them. Jake, unfazed, tells her that she should focus on dealing with them rather than concerning herself with Shirone. He adds that his companions are merely trying to show her the same level of respect she had shown him before. With sarcasm dripping from his words, he implies that he is simply returning the favors she once bestowed upon him. Realizing that Shirone is not present, she finds the situation much easier to handle. With newfound confidence, she states that she no longer cares about the many eyes watching her, as she can effortlessly take on all of them alone. His companions exchange doubtful glances, shocked by her bold declaration, but before they can react, a sudden explosion erupts while sending half of them crashing to the ground. Blazing flames rise into the air, their heat scorching like the depths of hell. Jake quickly commands his companions to suppress the fire while realizing that their collective strength weakens when too many attackers strike at once. He urgently instructs them to keep track of Amy's movements, but before they can respond, they find themselves airborne, desperately trying to escape the overwhelming heat. Amy remains confident as she relentlessly attacks, determined to overpower her opponents. A sudden flash of light appears, and she demands to know where they are all running. Without hesitation, she traps them once more and conjures another wave of scorching flames. The heat intensifies while becoming increasingly dangerous and unbearable for the boys. One of them turns to Jake in distress while reminding him that he had assured them Amy would rely on the cross. However, now she is not only using it, but spinning it with incredible speed. Jake quickly realizes that her combat abilities have advanced far beyond what they were during training. A thought crosses his mind that has she fought in real battles before? As the searing flames lick their skin, they begin to feel burns spreading across their bodies. Despite their agony, Jake remains composed while knowing that every skill has a weakness. Taking to the air, he analyzes the situation while concluding that the flaw in a horizontal attack lies in its vulnerability to strikes from above. With this in mind, he makes his move. Channeling his energy, he forms a swirling wind cutter in his hand and prepares to strike. Amy remains unaware of his presence above her as he rapidly descends, convinced that he has successfully ensnared her in his trap. However, just as he is about to land his attack, a sudden shift in energy catches him off guard. In a shocking turn of events, Amy effortlessly evades his strike. With a calm yet powerful voice, she reveals the reason is schema. Before he can react, she seizes his hand in midair while immobilizing him. A fierce fire strike follows, its power erupting in a blinding flash. In an instant, Jake is sent crashing to the ground. As he struggles, waves of searing flames surround him, their intense heat scorching his skin. The unbearable pain courses through his body while forcing him to acknowledge the overwhelming gap in their abilities. Meanwhile, she observes him with newfound understanding. Now she finally realizes why Jake's grades remain low, because he lacks true knowledge of advanced skills. Jake, frustrated, tells Amy not to mock him, but she dismisses him while saying that it is over, and there is no need to exaggerate the situation. She warns him that if he continues, she will make things even more difficult for him. However, before she can react, a sudden wave of dizziness overwhelms her. A strange noise fills her ears while growing louder and more unbearable. Clutching her head tightly, she realizes that the boys have activated a skill. Jake smirks and instructs his companions to maintain the spell while enjoying the torment they are inflicting. This is his counterattack. He warns Amy that if she does not exit her spirit zone, her mental abilities will deteriorate, as they are using anti-magic against her. Shocked, she recognizes the forbidden magic at play and realizes she is unable to return to her red-eye state. Now completely out of control, her body twists unnaturally in the air. The boys continue their relentless assault while believing they have her completely at their mercy. Jake moves closer and with a smug expression, demands that she answer him properly, his frustration evident. Amy, while struggling to maintain consciousness, reflects on her past mistakes. She regrets neglecting schema since she was 12. But she quickly forces herself to consider other ways to counter the attack. Jake, while sensing her helplessness, taunts her while declaring that she is powerless now. Taking a knife in his hand, he advances toward her with a sinister grin. Mocking her lack of interest in boys, he threatens to scar her face so that no man will ever look at her again. With a wicked smile, he looms over her while demanding that she beg for mercy. Amy, barely able to resist, realizes just how weak she has become. In that moment, memories of the past flood her mind. She recalls the day she and her guards humiliated Shirone, attempting to strip him of his dignity. Now, for the first time, she truly understands how he must have felt that is helpless and vulnerable. But before Jake can strike, our boy interrupts him by telling not to threaten her. As Shirone arrives, he immediately orders the boys to stop threatening Amy. However, they mutter in confusion while wondering why he is there. Jack mischievously asks if he has come alone. When they notice the stick in his hand, they sarcastically mock him while calling him a mighty prince and telling him to put it down. Meanwhile, Amy, frustrated by the situation, yells at him for coming alone. At the same time, Shirone is surprised that they have managed to trap the top student in the class. Nevertheless, he reassures himself that Sariel must have already found a professor. Remembering that he had once taken down Leon with just a wooden sword, he confidently demands that they release Amy. In response, the boys scoff at the idea while suspecting it must be a trick. They assume that freeing her would only lead to an ambush. Determined to act, Shirone starts advancing toward them. Instantly, they react with disbelief while questioning if he is seriously planning to fight them alone. Just then, Jack suddenly commands the others to open sesame and a boundary appears around Shirone. At first, he does not understand what is happening. But soon, he realizes that something is wrong. As his energy rapidly drains away, he collapses. Then he fell to the ground. Consequently, Jack taunts him while mocking his weakness and reminding him that they are mages. Meanwhile, Amy urgently warns him to escape from his spirit zone while explaining that the area is covered in anti-magic. If he remains trapped, he will lose his ability to use magic and, eventually, go insane. She desperately tries to get through to him. However, he feels his senses fading and his consciousness breaking apart. At that moment, a memory suddenly surfaces in his mind. His teacher's voice reminds him that a mage must have control till the end, and also remembers that a defensive stance can help a mage stay focused, even in the midst of chaos. Not only does it protect the spirit zone from physical impacts, but it also shields against magical attacks. Since both anti-magic and the spirit zone function as waves, he realizes that if his spirit zone becomes dense enough, it can resist the anti-magic. With renewed determination, Shirone begins fighting against the anti-magic, to stop it with his mere hands. As a result, his actions leave everyone in shock. They angrily question whether he considers himself a prodigy. To them, a newcomer acting like a big shot is unacceptable. Meanwhile, Amy desperately warns him that the boys are intensifying their attacks. She urges him to stop while knowing he is outnumbered. Just as she is about to say something else, his next move stuns everyone. Against all odds, he successfully overcomes the anti-magic while proving his incredible power. As Shirone continues to defend against the anti-magic, the boys watch in confusion. At first, they struggle to understand what is happening while noticing that the attack is simply bouncing off. One of them, while trying to keep the group calm, quickly warns the others not to panic. He reminds them that, if they lose control of their emotions, the wave will scatter while making them vulnerable to the attack. Meanwhile, Shirone puts in immense effort while pouring high energy into breaking free from the anti-magic. After struggling for a moment, he successfully dispels it. Then he comes forward towards them and apply his techniques. Suddenly, blue waves appear and the opponents find it painful for them. As a result, the magic backfires while striking all the boys and causing them to collapse. At the same time, Amy watches the scene unfold, unable to comprehend what just happened. Since she is not using her spirit zone, she finds it impossible to grasp the situation. However, as soon as the anti-magic fades, excitement builds within her. She marvels at the sheer density and solid nature of Shirone's spirit, something she has never witnessed before. She finds it impossible to witness such a solid spirit zone. Meanwhile, Shirone regains his footing and suddenly senses an unusual movement beneath him. The sensation reminds him of stepping on a tiny bug. At that moment, one of the boys, still in shock, exclaims that such a feat should be impossible. He cannot comprehend how a single student has managed to defeat 6 opponents on his own. Soon, the realization dawns on him that Shirone might be an anti-magic specialist, which could explain his special admission into the school. Nevertheless, Shirone, filled with anger, dismisses the boy's assumptions. He firmly challenges the idea that this battle is enough to defeat him. Despite his confidence, he internally admits that he lacks knowledge of any spells, which worries him. In response, the boy, now enraged, declares his intention to attack Shirone relentlessly. However, before he can make a move, Amy swiftly counterattacks while knocking him to the ground. She starts the fight while striking the boy without hesitation. Fueled by anger, she furiously declares that he has done enough harm. Shirone immediately attempts to calm her down. However, she continues her assault while shouting at the boy to repeat his words. Realizing the danger, Shirone warns her that using her schema with such intensity could kill him. Without wasting time, he quickly intervenes and stops her. She was not letting him go and asks him to fight again. In the struggle, both of them lose balance and fall. Concerned, Shirone immediately checks on her. He asks if she is all right, but unfortunately, she has already fainted. Panic sets in as he desperately pleads with her to wake up. Both of them are lying on the ground. Our boy initially assumes that Amy has lost consciousness from exhaustion. Feeling grateful for her help, he immediately thanks her. However, she quickly gets up, full of energy, and expresses disbelief that someone as weak as him would dare to face danger alone. Her words make him feel disillusioned while convincing him that there is no decency left in this girl. Meanwhile, she urges him to leave immediately, not wanting any professors to find them in this situation. However, he argues that Sariel has probably already informed one of them. When he asks for her help to stand up, she becomes frustrated. In response, she reminds him that she had specifically instructed Sariel not to say anything. Furthermore, she complains that he always makes things worse and explains how troublesome it is to get into trouble at their school. She emphasizes that mages never let matters go easily. Instead, they investigate every detail until they fully understand it. Consequently, she questions whether he truly wants both of their secrets exposed. Even so, he dismisses her concerns and points out that she almost lost her life. Instead of acknowledging his comment, she insists that they should leave immediately and discuss everything later. In her mind, she hopes that if her professor does arrive, it will be an older one who might overlook the situation. Shortly after, a bright light appears. Thad and Sienna arrive. As soon as they do, Sariel rushes to Amy, worried about her condition. She immediately asks if she is hurt, and why her hair is such a mess. In response, Amy reassures her while saying that it is nothing, and wonders why they arrived so soon. Just then an explosion occurs. At that moment, Shirone recognizes it as the Fire Sun spell, known to be extremely difficult to cast. Meanwhile Thad, surprised to see the scene in front of him, demands to know what has happened. He then turns to Amy while questioning how someone like her, who was one of the school's top students, got caught up in such a mess. Everyone focuses on her well-being while expressing concern for her safety. At the same time, Sienna approaches Shirone and explains that they rushed over as soon as they heard that he and Amy were in danger. Finally, she begins questioning him about the events that took place. A boy arrives and confidently tells the professor that he can explain everything. He admits that, to be honest, he challenged Amy to a duel because of a personal grudge while calling it a typical case of teenage frustration. Sienna, while looking confused, questions him about the duel. She points out that the letter they received contains signs of threats and blackmail. Furthermore, she states that she can tell he used anti-magic and reminds him of the strict rules against it. In response, he argues that he had no other choice since Amy was too powerful. Looking around, he insists that he is actually the biggest victim in the situation. Moreover, he accuses Amy of breaking the rules first by attacking him in the library, which, according to him, is the only reason he challenged her to a duel. He then claims that she must be hiding something, considering she went all the way there just to fight him. Amy, clearly frustrated, shouts that his claims are ridiculous. She reminds him that he was the one who threatened her in the library first. Additionally, she recalls how he mentioned kidnapping Shirone. However, he quickly dismisses her accusations while asking whether they actually did such a thing. Once again, he insists that she was the one who attacked first. Furthermore, he points out that Shirone never reported anything to a professor before coming there. He then turns to the professor and claims that Amy and Shirone are the true instigators, not him. Amy, while trying to stop him from twisting the story, attempts to speak, but he cuts her off. He declares that it is time for her to tell the truth. In his thoughts, he questions whether everyone now understands why dark magicians are feared. Determined to raise the stakes, he warns her that no matter how much money it costs, he will expose her deepest secret. He threatens that once he does, every newspaper, agency, and social circle in the kingdom will hear about it. However, Sienna interjects, then advises them not to act so confident. At that moment, she accuses the boy and his friends of using anti-magic, not for learning, but to attack students. She stresses that such reckless use could have destroyed minds or even caused deaths. Moreover, they were all fully aware of the risks involved. Sienna then firmly declares that their actions are more than enough reason for expulsion. However, the boy arrogantly questions whether she alone has the power to expel him. Thad, while trying to explain, reminds her that House Ardius, which the boy belongs to, holds significant financial influence over the school. Before he can continue, she argues that their duty is to guide students on the right path, not submit to power. Even if he disagrees, perhaps he should consider resigning. The boy, amused, burst into laughter. He expresses excitement to see who will end up leaving either the professor or himself. Confidently, he declares that, in the end, money controls everything and that no one can resist its power. He advises her to take this opportunity to learn that lesson. However, she remains unfazed and responds that before she does, there is something he ought to learn first. Sienna suddenly attacks the boy, causing several blasts to erupt. Meanwhile, Amy, who is feeling overwhelmed, questions why things have escalated this way. At the same time, Thad quickly reminds Sienna that harming students is strictly forbidden. As Shirone observes the attack, he is truly amazed by her precision. Despite the force of her magic, she does not land a single hit on the boy. Instead, she demonstrates an incredible level of control over even the tiniest molecules. As a result, he finally understands why she is renowned as a master ice mage. Afterward, she addresses the boy directly, asking if he truly believes that money can grant him everything. In response, he panics and yells at her to stop talking while demanding to be rescued immediately. However, she halts her attack and calmly states that she is well aware of how many students he has already harmed. Up until now, she adds, the school has merely tolerated his actions. In return, he confidently claims that this is only because of his family's wealth. Nevertheless, she challenges his belief while asking if he is truly deceiving himself. Furthermore, she asserts that school is not a place where students are taught for their money, but rather a place where they learn things that money cannot buy. At this point, he becomes confused and asks what she means. In response, she explains that school is a place where dreams come true. Since he wants to be a mage, she questions whether he truly understands what that means. Hearing this, he quickly remembers the time when he asked while promising to prove his abilities if he is advanced to Class 5. However, she reminds him that the purpose of school is to achieve dreams alongside friends, to study together, and to grow as mages. Therefore, she asks if he really wants to destroy the very place that gave him this opportunity. As a result of her words, he eventually apologizes for his mistakes. Following this, Jake and the rest of the dark magicians also regret their actions. Consequently, they choose to return to the path of a true mage. However, before doing so, they are required to spend a long time in the detention hall while reflecting on their wrongdoings and repenting for their misdeeds. Meanwhile, in the detention hall, groans of pain fill the air as someone complains about being treated too harshly. Another voice, however, reassures them while saying that it is just a minor injury and not worth making a fuss over. Shortly after, Shirone and Annie find themselves facing the professors. One of them sternly questions why he did not report the incident immediately, while emphasizing that such matters must be reported at once. Similarly, Thad expresses his disapproval while stating that he cannot accept the fact that Shirone attempted to rescue someone far more powerful than himself all alone. At that moment, Amy finally decides to speak up. She acknowledges that it is time to reveal the truth, realizing that keeping secrets will no longer benefit anyone. Additionally, she wonders how many people the headmaster has told. Then, she states that Shirone is her boyfriend. The others become frustrated and shocked while she laughs. The scene changes to Amy pleads for help while the gang of bad guys surrounding her laughs cruelly while mocking her helplessness. They claim no one will come to save her, and add that if she had accepted their affection, none of this would have happened. Suddenly, the sound of hooves fills the air while breaking the tension. A horse appears, and the gang wonders who it could be. As the dust settles, they realize it is Shirone. She is shocked to see him, unable to believe he has come. He tells her he has traveled a long way to rescue her. Without hesitation, he steps forward, holds her in his arms, and they come close to each other, their emotions intertwining. This scene is actually a story told by Cheryl, and the girls listening to the story find it incredibly romantic. Some are captivated, while others are skeptical while questioning whether it really happened. Serial, however, confirms its truth while stating that she has witnessed it herself. Just then, Amy appears and accuses her of spreading baseless rumors while insisting that everything is a lie. Despite this, the listeners remain engrossed, some finding the tale fascinating, while others grow envious. Meanwhile, Amy arrives and confronts Serial while demanding to know if she wants to risk her life by spreading falsehoods. Serial only laughs, dismissing the need for first-hand witness, confidently stating that Amy and Shirone are dating. She assumes they must have kissed before and remarks that it benefits Amy since it will keep other men away. Amy acknowledges this while agreeing to the unspoken advantage. However, just a few days earlier, during the incident, Thad is stunned to learn about Amy's involvement with Shirone, who is a newly admitted student. She explains that they had met when they were young, and have coincidentally reunited at the Magic Academy. With a slight blush, she turns to Shirone, seeking confirmation. He nervously smiles and agrees while solidifying the truth behind their connection. Now those around them understand the reason behind his willingness to help her. Amy finds it more convenient to pretend as lovers, rather than expose their past. In the present, Serial has found the situation unusual, and her curiosity only grows. Since they have integrated classes, she eagerly anticipates meeting Shirone, and teasingly asks Amy if she will meet him for dinner after class for a date. The thought intrigues Amy, but she quickly reminds herself that she has plenty of work to do and no time for dating. Shirone, on the other hand, is just a normal schoolboy who is living his life without complications. Yet, despite her logical reasoning, she cannot shake off the uneasy feeling creeping into her heart. In the second intermediate class at the integrated training grounds, they are all present. Serial calls out loudly while summoning Shirone. He comes forward to greet them while acknowledging their presence. She then asks if he's been missing Amy, but he finds her question silly. Amy, on the other hand, feels grateful that she is playing the love game with him. However, she notices that he seems too nervous when he is around her. Wanting to ease his discomfort, she advises him to remain calm and not to be overly concerned about the senior-junior relationship, as they are already familiar with each other. Serial, while listening intently, is taken aback by Amy's words, which sound unlike anything she has heard from her before. She begins to wonder if this is the power of love. Shirone responds by saying that he simply wants to show respect. Before the conversation can continue, the girl reminds them that she has to attend class, and both of them head toward their respective classrooms. As Shirone enters his classroom and sits in his chair, he overhears the murmurs of other students talking behind his back. The boys discuss how he was admitted only because of his looks and that he is more focused on dating than anything else. They even question his magical abilities while assuming that he is incapable of performing any magic. Hearing these words annoys him, and frustration builds inside him. Clenching his fists, he recalls how it all started 2 days ago. At that time, students had begun whispering about Amy and Shirone dating. In Class 7's room, discussions had intensified after a note was posted, openly declaring their relationship. The revelation had stirred strong emotions among the students. Many boys had been frustrated and disappointed while feeling betrayed by Amy's decision. Some had even cried out in anger, unable to accept that she was with someone else. Meanwhile, conversations had continued, with some students concluding that their relationship was now official, which was disappointing for both certain boys and girls. However, not everyone shared the same sentiment, and some girls had been genuinely happy for the couple while embracing the news with excitement. Meanwhile, the students in the class eagerly check their midterm grades, desperate to see their results. As they scan the scores, they are shocked to discover that Shirone is the weakest in the class, having scored only 30 marks in each subject. Initially, many had believed he was a talented student, but some now realize that he lacks knowledge of even basic magic spells. Just then, a man enters the classroom. He states that Shirone's poor performance is expected since he was admitted as a special admission student. Others join in while laughing at him. He further claims that Shirone was able to enter only because of noble connections, and that he is merely looking for a girl for himself. Many students feel it is unfair that he managed to get a girlfriend immediately after joining the school. Frustration spreads as they consider him undeserving of his place while believing that while they have been working hard to secure their futures, he has done nothing to earn his position. Their resentment grows as they question how the school could allow such injustice. When Shirone enters the room and the entire class falls silent, he immediately senses that they had been talking about him before he arrived. However, he chooses not to address it directly. Instead, as he starts a conversation with a classmate about the next lesson, the student deliberately turns away. Shirone notices the unusual behavior and realizes that something is wrong, but he refrains from asking since they clearly intend to keep it from him. Later, during Spirit Zone practice, the atmosphere remains tense. A girl practicing nearby becomes annoyed by Shirone's presence while feeling distracted by him. She questions why there is so much hype around his Spirit Zone. At that moment, Professor Athila appears and inquires if everything is fine. Shirone admits that he is struggling due to schism, which is causing his body to lose consciousness. The professor assures him that it is a normal phenomenon while explaining that his mind naturally aligns with the laws of nature, while making schism more challenging for him. She then shifts the topic and asks about the other shapes. Since he finds no difficulty with them, she instructs him to give a demonstration of the image zone. Surprised by the sudden request, he hesitates, unprepared to perform at that moment. The professor tells him that he can show it next time as well, but she wants to see him now because he is the only one who understands Quaternion. She also wonders if using the image zone makes him feel nervous among his classmates. She believes that confident children achieve more. Suddenly, he agrees to demonstrate his skill. His classmates are surprised while questioning whether he is showing off again by trying to appear superior. The professor instructs him to demonstrate one by one since mastering all 4 shapes of Quaternion will enhance the class. He wonders if executing them correctly will allow him to advance to the next level. The students of Class 4 also watch him closely. Deciding not to worry, he begins with defense while causing a blast of light to appear. The students are impressed by his strength. One of them finds it amusing that he has displayed 144 sides, which is remarkable. A massive explosion of light follows, accompanied by cracking sounds. The professor realizes that he possesses all the basic knowledge, and is exceptionally swift at changing shapes. However, the strain on his eyes leaves him exhausted. He also knows the professor will correct all his mistakes. The Class 5 students consider him amazing and are shocked when he attempts schism. For them, it seems unbelievable. He realizes that the key is shrinking the zone and then shifting the center, but he struggles to do so. The distraction unsettles his mind. Meanwhile, the students find it amusing and mock his failure. They recall how he executed it correctly before, and question what went wrong. Some believe he is merely seeking attention, but it does not bother him. They wonder if his mind is occupied with something else. Meanwhile, our boy questions why humans take pleasure in seeing him fail. His thoughts drift toward his connection with the place. Just then, a boy urges him to stop overthinking and not to hesitate. He reminds him of his goal, which is to become a mage. In that moment, he realizes his mistake and refocuses on his purpose. The students watch in surprise as a sudden light appears. He contemplates whether separation comes first or disintegration. Meanwhile, a student incident report emerges while detailing the use of anti-magic by 6 students. Professor Oliver sees the report and learns that anti-magic was suppressed by the defense shape. She considers it difficult and dangerous for ordinary people. She also questions the proper and appropriate use of anti-magic. Noticing that our boy's mind is more powerful and talented than others, she becomes more intrigued. She asks Professor Rumi whether he has successfully performed schism. Rumi explains that he has been learning Quaternion for a month and that his spirit zone lasted a perfect 4 seconds. They discuss the student's drive stimulation while proposing something regarding it. On the other side, Oliver finds herself sharing the same thoughts.